Hello and welcome back. In this third video we're going to look at the role of the Furies, moving on from the role of Mercury to the way that Prometheus deals with all the torments, including the most subtle sorts of torments. The Furies, if Mercury has been threatening Prometheus's bones, the Furies really threaten his very soul. This is, if you will, the temptation of Prometheus, but I think we know how strong Prometheus is, even in his suffering. Please do enjoy the video.
What do we make of this Chorus of the Furies to end it, right? We don't, and this is also, I guess, arbitrary because we cut it off at 5:20 ourselves, but it does feel that the interaction where we have Mercury. Oh yeah, sorry, we're gonna say.
Well, they're the ones actually doing the invoking of the new torturers. He's just saying, this is it, and the Furies, and the job of actually bringing the new torments are left to them to invoke. So Mercury is still, even though he's doing something active, is still kind of a passive figure in the tormenting.
Yeah.
This is an indication. This is an indication.
Yeah, they're calm. The choruses. I mean, the refrain within the Chorus of the Furies.
It's interesting that, it's never Prometheus. It's never. It's always like here it's the Furies. I tend to think of in other places where a character is talking about what's actually happening to human beings on Earth. I guess I would have just thought that as the character who's so most closely tied with mankind and whose love of mankind is what has placed him in this position, he doesn't talk about mankind. To my, at least.
Well, in talking, when Prometheus talks about himself, he is talking about mankind, because he took on the suffering.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said too about the idea of this transformation that allows the salvation of mankind, right, has to occur internally first with Prometheus, right? So there's this constant turning inward, I think, in this section specifically, right? We have him, if we back up, I guess, a little before that, all of this external pressure from Mercury and the Furies is, he responds with no, nor more nor less do I desire or fear, right? He's giving up his basest feelings, right? He's saying, I'm above desire, I'm above fear. He even at one point has the self-awareness to recognize that I grow like what I contemplate. So there's this constant self-scrutiny, self-awareness that is, I think, ultimately going to be what catalyzes this external change, right? That if he can perfect himself from the inside out, then there will be then he will have demonstrated Shelley's claim that man is perfectible, right? And then from the one Prometheus we get, obviously.
And it's when Heracles finally releases Prometheus from his captivity, he has been perfected. Because, and that's at the same point that Jove is overthrown.
Yes, yeah.
So,
part of this, I think, is, I know Eric keeps talking about it, I don't quite get it, and then he refers to the wasteland, where you need the reader in this.
Yeah.
That the reader is the hero. Prometheus isn't the hero, the reader is.
That makes sense.
And so I think, in a way, it's Prometheus is leaving a space for us to come in and to kind of try on the words that Prometheus is saying, to say, can we,
be better,
humans,
be better.
step in and play this role and then take it through? So he's opening up here, leaving room for us.
Yeah.
Campbell's hero's journey.
That makes a lot of sense.
Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, in essence. If you're familiar with.
One nice thing
Campbell's
that frees me up is I have no background in this at all. So I can make up anything.
I like the two eyes. Why is Mercury
talks about in the Joseph Campbell, when he talks about in the Power of Myth, talks about the hero's journey. That is what this is.
So the hero Prometheus, the hero us.
We are the hero taking the journey of Prometheus as Ione, as Asia and Panthea, take on his hero's journey. So, to me, Prometheus, Asia, and Panthea are three parts of a whole. They cannot exist without each other. Asia cannot leave the valley, Panthea can't, and Asia can't get to Demogorgon without Prometheus waking up and integrating them into him.
So in Joseph Campbell's hero's journey,
Yeah.
can you give me an example of like what one?
You know, it's the power of myth. When you read the myths of like Heracles, even though he is, you know, dedicated to the goddess Hera after Zeus impregnates his mother, Hera rewards this dedication because the name Heracles means the glory of Hera. She rewards him by making him mad, insane, and giving him this terrible temper. And the upshot of that blessing is he murders his family in a blind rage, which therefore leads to his redemptive 12 labors.
And so a hero's journey is having to do a certain number of
It's
tasks,
having to
like
take a task.
Odysseus.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I read that, but Campbell essentially lays out kind of criteria for a hero's journey, and then talks about various different myths and.
I think Hercules was one of them.
I think so, yeah. It's been,
Yeah.
But he kind of builds this argument.
You know, Gilgamesh, his hero's journey, his quest for. He's a demigod. He should be immortal anyway. But he works for eternal life. You know, that. And going on from, you start out, you know, and all the choices you make along your personal journey determine whether or not you are a hero. Whether or not you succeed in the redemptive or you get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. All right, that makes sense.
I like the idea that you're talking about how the reader becomes the hero. It's kind of interesting to think about because I think generally when we think of political poetry, it's a lot of times a call to action, right? And this is almost a call to inaction, right? It's kind of, you need to perfect yourself in this Promethean way before we can progress as a whole, right?
Yeah, that journey that seems to, you know, is referred to in Act 2, and actually that Asia
Right.
takes that
Yeah,
journey
she takes the physical
for
journal.
Prometheus, for us.
And aided by her sister Panthea. Whereas Ione remains with Prometheus as a passive observer of all that's going on.
Covering her face with her wings.
Are they in the shapes of swans, or I don't know?
Well, the Nereids,
Well, in this.
they could be. I would say swan-like or some ocean bird.
Okay.
Maybe a heron, you know, or a kingfisher, or some form of a hunting seabird.
That makes sense. Somewhere I heard that they were swans, and then
I think it would depend on
which myth you're looking at. And
Yeah.
Exactly. So I didn't know if in here we've ever clearly identified what manner of
you know,
fowl.
or are they even mermaids? You know, they're the daughters of ocean. Would they be half female, half fish?
Yeah.
There's something curious here. It's below 430. There's that exchange near the bottom. Ione, Mercury, and Panthea, then Ione again, before the Furies get there. So it seems like Ione right there is saying, here it comes, you know, here's the howling, the Furies are on the verge. And then Mercury, sort of one last gasp, saying, hey, you know, I've got to do this even though I'm remorseful. And then Panthea has this curious, you know, almost upbeat kind of, oh look, you know, winged feet, the slanted sunlight of dawn, and then Ione, sister, you know, cover your eyes, you're going to get burned, you know, watch out, death is coming. So that Panthea line, it just don't get that.
Panthea is actually talking about Mercury at that point with winged feet. That's Mercury.
Yeah, but sort of, so Panthea is kind of seeing something bright with possibilities, where Ione is
she's
warning
also letting
her.
the reader know that Mercury has made his exit.
Oh.
Runs down the slant. Oh, the
And
dawn.
then Ione says, "Jesus, your close thy plumes over thine eyes." With what Ione is speaking of are the new torments.
That's really good. Yeah, that makes sense.
Just, unless thou behold and die, they come blackening the birth of day with countless wings. So they're talking about.
Yeah, well, it's clear that Ione is seeing the Furies, and,
Yeah.
and Panthea is saying, "Okay, Mercury, goodbye.
Yeah.
Nice try, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had read it too that
Well-
that Panthea and Ione were both looking at the same things coming towards them.
But also, Mercury's last line is, "I must obey his words and divine." Says, "Okay, I can do no more. I have to do as both of you ask me." So I'll go back to Jove and tell him to have at it.
Yeah, that Mercury
That's-
is completely.
Is that
exercising
basically
some free will.
Prometheus? You just flip them off, sour it off.
In doing so, too, he puts Mercury in that position
Yeah,
of having to, essentially give up his free will, right? He's saying throughout this entire time, I must obey it, I must obey it. And Prometheus really
Well-
pushes him to say, I mean, he doesn't explicitly say you can do what you want, but he's
Yeah.
saying, I won't give in to that. You need to.
Well, it's the
you
free
need to
will.
do
But
it."
again, he's talking about Prometheus has free will.
Right. Whereas
He
Mercury
does not.
Yes.
In this situation, he does not. He has free will in other areas, in his other domains, not as psychopomp, where he has to be the bearer of glad or bad tidings. Usually, and what he's doing is as in his role as psychopomp. Again, coming to Prometheus and saying, "This is it," and then taking Prometheus back to the heavens to say, "This is,
So in the world of 1819, who might Mercury be?
To me, I think Mercury represents the liberal but not radical in England and France. at the
Silent
time.
majority?
Yeah, kind of these people who are who support the ideas of revolution, but are kind of incapacitated by a government that is oppressing them, right? Like,
You mentioned Lee.
he's jailed for publishing certain things from the left, and he never, I don't think he ever fully leaves to go to Italy like Shelley does, but right, so we have these people who are trying to essentially make the best of a bad situation within within Britain at the time, right, where the pamphlet war is being fought. And then reform. When does the reform come? 1832,
I think so.
34, something
But
like that?
fun fact, up until the French Revolution and Robespierre, there was no left or right wing politically.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm
Okay,
using
from-
current
They're
terms.
only,
to-
they're, no,
yeah.
but left wing and right wing come from the French Revolution.
Oh really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
You had the Incroyables, which were the mods,
Okay.
and then you had the conservatives on the right, and
Yeah,
the
so-
Incroyables on the left of Robespierre. And that's where that came
But
from the French.
I don't want to be so reductive as to say that's 100% who Mercury represents,
No,
but I think
that's-
that's
yeah.
that's a way to read it.
That's
is
an
that-
It's,
interpretation.
it's the conflict.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
represents the conflict between the status quo and change.
Absolutely. And I think it's with these figures of Prometheus is this unbridled idealism, and you have this, Jove is kind of this, evil figure. Mercury becomes, at least to me, very relatable, right? This, I think I can see myself in that where, you can want and believe in something very hard, but, and we see it today politically, or, if you work a job you don't love, you want to break through these things, but you have to pay your bills, right? You have to do these things that people have to do to survive in the world. And so part of, I think, Shelley's genius and brilliance, and what I love about him so much is his inability to reconcile that, right? That he lived his life in a way that was very much like, I think this is how things should be, and I'm going to do them, regardless of what it means for my family or things like that.
Yeah.
So Mercury, I think, is a super interesting, complicated character in this, particularly in this section.